Shiva Mahapurana Introduction Part 2. The Puranas. The Puranas have added enormously to the development of the personality of Shiva, and in these texts, many of the episodes from the Vedic and the post Vedic literature had been included and further elaborated, highlighting the benevolent, heroic, and the Ugra forms of Shiva. The Puranic literature is so vast that it would be rather impossible to bring in all the important details presently, but still, an effort has been made to highlight the presence of Shiva in some of the Puranas in various forms. Another aspect that cannot be lost sight of in this connection is that side by side with the Puranas, the Tantric texts as well as the Shilpa Shastras had also mushroomed over the Indian religious horizon, in which the iconographic features of the deity with his spouse had been developed, which added to the grace of representing Shiva in various forms in the Indian plastic art. Agni Purana, in its chapter 53, brings out the essential features of the phallic emblem of Shiva, including the mode of sculpturing the same, its dimensions, besides the measures of the pithas. The next chapter describes the merit of worshipping the phallic emblem made of different substances and other related details. Chapter 85 of the Bhavishya Purana highlights an episode in which Krishna once went to the Manasarovara lake where he meditated Shiva for 12 years. The next chapter provides a graphic account of the gods who called the Krishna during his stay at Kailasa. This event of Krishna visit to Himalaya for the purpose of performing tapas for Shiva has also been found in the Vayavya Samhita of the Shiva Purana. The chapter 34 of the Brahma Purana narrates the episode of Shiva's destruction of the sacrifice of Daksha in considerable detail. According to this account, Sati went to the sacrifice of her father uninvited, much against the wishes of her husband, where she was humiliated for arriving without the invitation. Even Shiva was abused by Daksha, as a result of which Sati ended her life in the fire altar of Yajna. The concluding part of the chapter relates to the birth of Sati as Parvati in the house of Himalaya. Parvati, after her birth, performed tapas for getting Shiva as her husband. In chapter 36, Shiva's marriage with Parvati is performed and the gods praise the Lord as follows. Chapters The gods praise the Lord as follows. Namo Neelashikhandaya Ambikapataye Namaha Namaha Pavanarupaya Shatarupaya Vai Namaha Namo Bhairavarupaya Virupanayanaaya Cha Namaha Sahasranetraya Sahasracharanaya Cha. Chapters 205 to 206 describe the battle between Vanasura and Krishna and ultimate marriage of Usha, the daughter of Banasura, with Aniruddha, the grandson of Krishna, after a battle between Shiva and Krishna. The same episode has been included in the Shiva Purana as well. In chapter 5 of the book 3 of the Devi Bhagavata Purana, Shiva eulogizes the goddess along with Brahma and other gods, calling her the universal mother. According to the chapter 17 of this Purana, Vishnu once cursed Lakshmi that she would never stick to one place and shall always remain on the move, being unstable. After the curse, Lakshmi left Vaikuntha and came to stay at the confluence of the rivers Yamuna and the Tamasa in the form of a mare. She spent all her time in the devotion of Shiva, having 5 faces, 10 arms, and with Parvati as his spouse. Thousands of years were spent by her in meditation. Thereafter, Shiva and Parvati appeared before her, and Lakshmi apprised them of her misfortune because of the curse of Vishnu. She then prayed to the divine couple to rid her of the curse. Shiva then pronounced that she would be free of the curse after giving birth to a son. Lakshmi then pointed out that she could not have a son without Vishnu, her husband. Shiva then promised that he would send Vishnu in the form of a horse, and a son named Ekavira would be born to her, and she would be relieved of the curse. Chapter 18 of the Harivamsha Purana contains the story of Vanasura, who desired to be a son of Shiva and Parvati, and for this purpose he performed severe tapas, which pleased the divine couple, who granted him his desired wish. Thereafter, Vanasura resided at Shonitpura, which was protected by Shiva. In the meantime, Usha, the daughter of Vanasura, fell in love with Aniruddha, the son of Pradyumna and grandson of Krishna. Usha's maid servant abducted Aniruddha from Dwarika and was brought him stealthily to the capital of Vanasura, where both of them married secretly. Learning about the presence of Aniruddha in his palace, Vanasura became furious and started a war in which Krishna and other Yadavas also joined. Since Vanasura had been declared as the son of Shiva, the latter also joined the war. A great battle was fought between Shiva and Krishna, in which deadly weapons were used. The conflict ended at the intervention Brahma, after which Shiva returned to Kailasa and Usha was formally married to Aniruddha. But Vanasura was deprived of all his arms except the two natural ones in his fight with Krishna. The Kurma Purana 9.50 to 51 describes Shiva having 3 eyes, one of which is lodged in the forehead. He is the lord of the Bhutas, having the matted locks of hair, and holds a trident. Brahma and Vishnu also describe him as Maheshwara, manifested as a great yogi, having effulgent splendor equal to that of the 10 million suns put together. He has also been described as devouring the sky, as it were, with 1,000 crores of months, and possessed of 1,000 heads and an equal number of feet, having the sun, the moon, and the fire as his eyes. The trident bearing Lord appears holding the pinaka in the hand, dressed in the tiger's skin, using a snake to serve as a sacred thread, and uttering sounds as deep as the rumbling of the clouds. The word linga in the Linga Purana has been used in several ways, the most important and the fundamental meaning of which could be a mark or a symbol. Even in respect of the meaning of the marks distinguishing one sex from the other is further derived from the primary meaning. In its usage all over the Sanskrit literature, this primary meaning has already been kept in view even when applied to a form of Shiva. It is thus the primary meaning that is predominantly kept in view as visualized from occurrence in different places in the Vayu, Linga and Shiva Purana. Chapter 3 of the first book of the Linga Purana is important in as much as it projects the meaning in which the Linga is used in connection with Shiva. The word Linga is used here in the sense of a visible symbol. The absolute form, which is beyond all the visible forms, is therefore called a Linga, that which has no visible symbol, and as the basis of any later manifestations of any visible form, linga. The first manifestation for the absolute is prakrit or pradhana or avyakta, as it is called in the Samkhya. The primordial matter from which all these categories evolve is therefore the first linga. Above that, Shiva is the ultimate principle with quality, eternal, indestructible, saguna, dhruva, akshaya, whereas the linga, the visible mark, possesses the qualities of smell, etc., and has come into being from a linga. Shiva Prakriti, Shiva Prakrit as the source of further linga or the manifest forms like the 26 principles is the Maya of Shiva in the linga. Ibid 28.7.9. Chapter 49 of the Markandeya Purana speaks of the birth of Rudra, according to which at the start of the Kalpa, Brahma was meditating for begetting a son, resembling himself. At once a boy of red and blue color was seen sitting in his lap, who started crying. On being asked by Brahma the reason for his so crying, Rudra replied that he wanted a name for himself. Brahma therefore gave him the name of Rudra. Since Rudra cried further for 7 times, he was given the 7 more names, viz. Bhava, Sharva, Ishana, Pashupati, Bhima, Ugra, and Mahadeva. After giving them 8 names, 8 places were also prescribed for them, which were Surya, water, Prithvi, Agni, Vayu, Akasha, etc. His consorts were named as Suvarchala, Uma, Swadha, Swaha, Diksha, and Rohini. An identical account of birth of Rudra is found in the Vishnu Purana. The episode of Sati's ending her life in the fire altar of Daksha Yajna has also been described. The Matsya Purana contains a reference to 11 Rudras, who are described as the Manasputras, or the mind-born sons of Surabhi, the divine cow. From them, 84 crores of Ganas were created for the protection of the world. The names of these 11 Rudras have been spelled out in chapter 153.19 of this Puranas, as well as in the Linga Purana 1.82.40-41, Harivamsha 1.3.49-52, Bhavishya 125.7, and several other texts. The Vayu Purana speaks of millions of emanations of the 11 Rudras and conceives them having fire as their mouth. 101 3:14-15. The Shiva Purana testifies the Rudras are but the different forms of the Puranas who had been directed to create many creatures. Vayavya Samhita 12.25-23. The Matsya Purana also includes a graphic account of the killing of Taraka, marriage of Parvati and with Shiva, Shiva's Ganas, and several other episodes concerning Shiva. Naradiya Purana describes that Narayana is the ultimate reality, who is indestructible, boundless, and omnipresent, while Shiva is said to have emerged out of the middle of his body. The text testifies that the entire world is pervaded by Narayana. 1.3.2. The term Mahavishnu is synonym of Narayana. He brings into existence Brahma as creator of the universe, from the right limb, Vishnu as preserver from his life part, and Rudra from the middle. The first chapter of the Vamana Purana starts with a dialogue between Shiva and Sati. in which the spouse prays to Shiva for the building of an abode in the hot season. Shiva, however, replies that he had been homeless and would like to live in the forest. On the arrival of the rainy season, Sati repeated her request for some kind of shelter, but Shiva declined, because of which they had to use the tiger skin for seat and the serpents to adore the body. Sati got offended at her husband's attitude and had to spend time in a homeless condition. In order, however, to provide relief to his spouse, he went to mountain top beyond the clouds and thus came to be known as Jimuta Ketu. The Purana also contains the following episodes: destruction of Daksha's sacrifice, the Ekarnava doctrine, severing of one of the five heads of Brahma by Shiva, removal of Brahmahatya of Shiva at Kapalamochan Tirtha at Kashi, wrath of Shiva on Kamadeva, powers of Shivalinga, different sects of Shaivism like Kalamukha, Pashupata, Andhakasuravadha, marriage of Shiva and Parvati, Hari from Hari her form of Shiva, Hari her form of Shiva, bestowing of chakra by Shiva to Vishnu. Varaha Purana deals with the birth of Rudra and other forms of Shiva, according to which Brahma got dissatisfied with the progress and started performing tapas, as a result of which Prana Purusha was born of him, who after his birth started crying. Brahma then asked him the cause of his crying, at the same time asking him not to cry. Since then he came to be known as Rudra. Brahma then asked Rudra to spell out the expansion of world's creation. Thereupon Rudra got himself consigned in water. Then Brahma created Daksha, who helped Brahma in the task of the creation of the world. 211.39. In the chapter 211 of the Shiva Purana, Shiva has been conceived like the rising sun, having the headdress of the matted locks of hair decorated with crescent, having 3 eyes, thousands of arms, wearing the garland of Rudraksha, holding holding Kamandalu, and wearing the tiger's skin as the garment. Shiva Purana, on the other, deals with all the salient features of the life and philosophical aspects of Shiva in considerable detail, including therein almost all the topics dealt with in other Puranas. The most conspicuous aspect of the theme of the Shiva Purana is that it not only details several types of the forms of Shiva, the different modes of his worship, the worship of Linga, and the performing of the several types of Shiva Bratas, but also the rituals and rites connected with each one of them. One of the important aspects of the Shiva Purana is that it highlights not only the life scenes of the Lord but also spells out his various incarnations, viz. Grahapati, Yaksheshwara, Sharabha, Ekadasa Rudras, Durvasa, Bhairava, Hanuman, Vrishabha, Pippalada, Vaishyanatha, Dvijeshwara, Yatinatha, Krishna Darshana, Avadhuteshwara, Bhikshuvarya, Sureshwara, Brahmachari, Natanartaka, Sadhu, Vibhu, Ashwatthama, and Kirata. Thus, the genesis of Shiva, the traces of which are found in the Rig Veda in the form of Rudra as a terrific god, was in the same text conceived as Mahadeva as well as Shiva, remotely suggesting his benevolent form as well. The personality of Shiva further developed in the Yajurveda, wherein he is called the Lord of Paths, of the forests, and those who wander in them, of thieves and highway robbers who frequent and move about from the usual dwellings of the men. Rudra has also been described as Eka Vratya, or the Vratya par excellence, and this epithet characterizes in a very interesting manner the association of elements in his composite character not derived from the orthodox Vedic order. It is therefore established that by about the Puranic period, Shiva, shedding his Ugra or the terrific form in the background, became more benevolent deity during the Puranic age and came to be known as Bhava, Pashupati, Mahadeva, Ishana, Shiva, Shambhu, and Shankara, representing the deity of the masses whose adoration was henceforth patronized mainly by the recluses, mendicants, ascetics, and others. The Shilpa Shastras and Tantric literature. It is a fact that with the advent of the Puranas over the Indian historical horizon, there had been a boost in the popularity of Shiva, and his images were conceived besides the Shiva lingas in Ugra, Saumya, and benevolent forms. With the development of the concept of Shiva in many forms, several types of images of the god had to made, and for that purpose definite iconographical features had to be developed. Therefore, for the study of the detailed iconography of Shiva, some Shilpa Shastras had been composed which defined the various forms of Shiva with many heads, hands, and eyes, etc. A few examples of these projections are given here under. The heads. Single head. Most of the images of Shiva are presented with single head, as would be evident from the following. The text of Mansara describes Sadashiva to have single head with three eyes and a Jatamukata. Amsubhedagama Amsubhedagama describes Pashupataha to have a single head and three eyes. The name, the same text also prescribes a single head for the Ardhanarishwara form of Shiva. Uttara Kamikagama also describes Chandrasekhara form of Shiva to have a single head. There are several other such cases described in the text. Sometimes the Mukhalinga also has the single head of Shiva carved over it. Two-headed textual references as he god having two heads are rarely found, but in the representation of art of the god in Ardhanarishwara form has been found carved in the ceiling of the Markula Devi temple, Udaipur, in Chamba district of Himachal Pradesh. Here the deity, besides the two male and female part of the body, has also two heads, a male and female, joined as he at his shoulders. The male head wears the Jata Mukata, while the head of the female is adorned with an ordinary crown. The three-headed, the earliest reference to the three-headed variety of Shiva in the texts is rarely found, but the earliest representation of the deity in this form is found over a seal from Mohenjo-daro, projecting a three-headed god wearing the horned headdress, seated cross-legged over a throne surrounded by the wildlife. Besides Karanagama and Rupamandana lay down that there should be three faces with a Mukhalinga, and if so, there should be no face at the back. One of the wooden panel found at Dandi Nalik in Khotan represents three-faced Shiva seated over a bull mount. The face in the center is placid, while the right one is feminine and the one to the proper left is terrific. The image of Martanda Bhairava, preserved in the Rajshahi Museum has three faces. Uttara Kamikagama prescribed three faces or three faces for Trimurti form of Shiva. Shiva with three faces has been found from several sites in the country. Four-headed, the Karanagama lays down that the number of the faces of Mukhalinga should be four facing the four quarters. It further specifies that the number of faces on Mukhalinga should be determined on the basis of the openings available in a particular shrine. Thus, for a temple or a shrine having four openings, there should be four faces drawn over the linga, each one of which should face each one of the openings. Rupa Mandana, another Shilpa text, prescribes that the western face of Shiva should be white, the northern red, the southern black and terrific, and the eastern face should be of the color of fire. One of the earlier stone linga with four faces carved on all the four sides was discovered from Bhita. Chaturmukha are also found during the Kushana period. Four faces of Shiva are also found projected over the sculptures of Shiva in stone, etc. Five-headed. The five faces of Shiva stand for the five tattvas, viz. Sadyajata, Vamadeva, Aghora, Tatpurusha and Ishana, which are believed to be beyond the comprehension of even the great yogis. Karanagama refers to the five faces of Shiva. A unique collection of five-faced linga is preserved in the Mathura Museum, which dates back to the Kushana period. Samarangana Sutradhara also refers to the five faces of Shiva with 2, 4, 8, 18, 20, 100 or even 1,000 arms with 15 eyes. Each head is studded with a skull. Aparajita Pracha attributes five heads to the Sadashiva form of Shiva. Six-headed in the epic of Mahabharata, Shiva has been described to be as Sadanana or having Shiva has been described to be as Shadanana or having six heads. Eight-headed. The text of Vishnu Dharmottara prescribes 8 heads of Shiva in a form of Uma Maheshwara Murti, and each one of the 8 heads is said to be adorned with a Jata Bhara and a crescent. 25-headed. Manasara prescribes 25 heads of Shiva in his Mahasadashiva form. An image of the god from Vaitishvara Sharana Koil, Vaitishvarana Koil, Tanjore of Tamil Nadu has been referred to be referred to by T.A. Gopinatha Rao, in which 25 heads have been shown in different tiers in arithmetical progression. The top tier has a single head, then the next below has 3, and further next 5, and so on till the last tier has 9 heads. The heads on the border triangles are adorned with Jata Mukutas. The heads on the border triangles are adorned with Jata Mukutas. Thousand-headed. Some of the texts eulogize the Lord with 1,000 heads, arms and feet. Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha, Sahasrakshaha, Sahasrapad. But the projection of such a types of the Lord has yet to be found. Head of a bird. The texts of Uttara Karanagama as well as the Sri Tattvanidhi present Shiva in the form of Sharabhesha, Sharabhesha in a composite form of a bird and an animal with the head of a bird. Shiva is believed to have appeared in the form in order to subjugate the Narasimha form of Vishnu, who had subjugated Hiranyaksha, the great devotee of Shiva. The arms. Two-armed. The following texts prescribe 2 arms to Shiva in different forms. Text: form of Shiva, number of hands and attributes. Aparajita Pracha Sadashiva, 2, holding a Khatwanga and Shula. Suprabhedagama Chandrasekhara, holding a Parashu and a deer. Shilparatna Ardhanarishwara, holding a trident and a mirror or a flower. Purva Karanagama Gangadhara, projecting Abhaya and holding a Parashu. Shilparatna Gangadhara, a sword and a flower. Sri Tattvanidhi Chandrasekhara, projecting Abhaya and Varada mudras. Sri Tattvanidhi Jalandhara Murti, umbrella and kamandalu. 3-armed. Though the reference to the gods having 3 hands are rare, still J. N. Banerjee has pointed out the presence of the image of 3 named Ardhanarishwara from Tanjore, where the god is shown reclining over Nandi. One of his right hand holds a trident and the other one is in Varada Mudra. The hand on the left of Parvati holds a Nilotpala flower. 4-armed. The 4-armed variety of Shiva has been commonly found in the Shilpa Shastras, as would be evident from the following examples, which are only illustrative but not exhaustive. Text, form, attributes. Amshubhedagama and Shilparatna. Pashupataha, Abhaya, trident, Varada and Akshamala. Uttarakamikagama, Ardhanarishwara, Tanka, Abhaya, mirror and a lotus. Suprabhedagama, Ardhanarishwara, Parashu, Abhaya, parrot and Katihasta. Purva Karanagama Kalyana Sundaramurti holding Gauri, Parashu, Ves and the black deer. Vishnu Dharmottara Ardhanarishwara Akshamala trident lotus and a mirror. Aparajita Pracha Ardhanarishwara trident Akshamala mirror and Kamandalu. Shri Tattvanidhi Vishapa Haranamurti Vishapaharanamurti Parashu poison Mriga and Varada. Shilparatna Kevala Murti Abhaya Tanka Varada and Mriga. Rupamandana Uma Maheshwara Murti Matulinga Shula Naga and Parvati. Six-armed. The textual references to the six-armed variety of Shiva are few and far between. But in one of the dancing poses of Shiva, Amshubhedagama describes him as having 6 hands. Vatuka, Bhairava, has however been assigned 6 arms in the Rupamandana text, making him hold a Khatwanga, a Pasha, a Shula, a Damaru, a Kapala, and Varamudra, and Varadamudra. 8-armed. The Amshubhedagama describes Shiva as 8-armed in the Gajasura Samhara form, as also the Kalari form, with 8 arms holding a trident, sword, tusk, skin, kapala, shield, a bell, and skin. The Uttara Karanagama, on the other hand, describes 8-armed Andhakasura Vadamurti to have 8 arms holding Trishikha, Vetala, Tiryaka, Khadga, Damaru, Kapala, Khetaka, and Khadga. The same text prescribes almost the same attributes to Ashtabhuja, Ghora Murti of Shiva. The 8-armed form of Shiva is portrayed in caves at Ajanta and Ellora, in which Shiva holds tridents in 2 of the 8 hands. 10-armed, according to the Aparajita Pracha, Tripurantaka form of Shiva has to possess 10 arms holding a Khadga, Khatwanga, Kapala, trident, Abhaya, Kantha, a Pasha, an Ankusha, a bow, and an arrow. The text of the Karanagama also provides 10 hands to Sadashiva, carrying a Khatwanga, Damaru, blue lotus, Akshamala, snakes, etc. Vishnu Dharmottara also prescribes 10 arms for Sadharana form of Shiva holding various weapons. A 10-armed dancing figure of Shiva depicts him holding various attributes. 12-armed. A 12-armed dancing image of Shiva is carved in the Vital Dwell temple, Bhuvaneshwara. The hands on the right hold a trident and a snake, and the lowermost rests over the thigh. Nandi appears between Shiva's legs. Another 12-armed image of Shiva is preserved in the Dhaka Museum, in which the god is dancing. 14-armed. A 14-armed image of Shiva is preserved in the Madhukeshwara temple, Mukhalingam. He is flanked by Bhringi, a drummer, and Ganga. 16-armed. The Gajasura Samhara Murti of Shiva from Amriteshwara temple at Amritapura, Mysore, has 16 arms, most of which are damaged, but the hands which are still preserved hold a pasha, danda, trident, akshamala, and a skull. The beautiful image of Gajasura Samhara Murti of Shiva from Halebid depicts the god dancing, holding various attributes. 18-armed or 20-armed, the Samarangana Sutradhara prescribes 18 or 20 arms of the Sadharana form of Shiva. The text further states that the figures of Shiva with 20 hands should be installed in the cremation ground or in the forest. 32 armed. Sri Tattvanidhi prescribes 32 arms to Sri Tattvanidhi prescribes 32 arms to Sarvesha form of Shiva holding various attributes. The Aparajita Pracha, on the other hand, prescribes 32 hands for Swachanda Bhairava form of Shiva holding the following attributes: right hands Gada, Pattisha, Parashu, Shakti, Bana, and Bao, Akshamala, Snake, Mudgara, Chashaka, Agni, Kusha, Damaru, Shuchi, Crescent, Piyusha, and a mirror. Left hands Gada, Mirror, Varada, Shashani, Sword, Ankusha, Damaru, Purna Kalasha, Shula, Khatwanga, Abhaya, cup full of poison, Samkha, snake, and Madhya Patra. 50 arms. The Maha Sadashiva form of Shiva is endowed with 50 arms according to the Mansara text. An image of this form of Shiva is preserved in the Vaitishwaran Kovil, Tanjore, in which the prescribed number of 50 hands have been shown in 2 rows on either side of the god, 100 or 1,000 armed. Samarangana Sutradhara says that the Sadharana form of Shiva could be made with 100 or even 1,000 arms, though no such specimen is traceable in the Indian plastic art. Costumes. A number of texts provide that Shiva should be clad in the tiger skin or that of a tiger or an elephant. Some of the texts describe him having been clad otherwise also, glimpses of which are provided hereunder. Text, form, garments. Mansara, Sadharana Murti, tiger skin. Amshubhedagama, Sadharana Murti, tiger skin. Rudra, garment of red color. Rudra, garment of red color. Vishapaharana Murti, garment of red color. Kevala Murti, should be clad in Pitambara. Uttarakami Kagama, Ardhanarishwara, Shiva's half to be clad in tiger skin, while Parvati's half should be clad in ladies' garments. Vyakhyana Dakshinamurti, clad in tiger skin. Sri Tattvanidhi, Arjunanugraha Murti, to be clad in divine garments. Vishnu Dharmottara Bhairava should be clad in elephant skin. Ornaments. Generally speaking, most of the texts provide snakes as the ornaments of Shiva, but Manasara prescribes the garland of skulls for him, besides other ornaments. The same aspect has been repeated in the Samarangana Sutradhara Amshubhedagama, which prescribes Makara Kundala in the right ear and Patra Kundala in the left one. Aparajita Pracha prescribes Kapalamala for the Tripurantaka as ornament. He is also adorned with a crescent over the head. Footwear. Most of the texts are silent on the question of the footwear of Shiva, but Sri Tattvanidhi prescribes that the god should have sandals as footwear. Padayo Paduka Yuktang. Similarly, while describing the Virabhadra form of Shiva, the god has been supposed to wear the sandals Nupuro Vimalo Tadvat Pado Paduka Bhushito. The sandals have also been provided in the Jalandhara form of Shiva in the same text. It would thus be evident that during the age of the Purana, there had been not only a tremendous boost in the popularity of the Shiva cult, but also his forms had multiplied, which necessitated the simultaneous development of the iconographical features of the Lord and the rapid mushrooming of the Shilpa Shastras, in spite of the fact that details of his essentials features had been brought out in several of the Puranas. Another important features of his age had been that a terrific form of Shiva had been relegated to the background, if not completely discarded. Because of this, though the sculptures of Shiva in Ugra angry form were not totally done with, but they were not displayed in the temples as the main objects of worship, but were lodged in the temple walls or other insignificant places.